Okay, good afternoon everyone. I think you've waited long enough. It's 12:30, so we'll better get started. So first of all, welcome to our hands-on training session this afternoon, building reports to analyse ROI. And first of all, apologies for the fact that we're starting about 45 minutes later than intended. A few people have been asking, but this late start will not affect any later sessions that you may be hoping to attend. So the next sessions after this session will begin at 2:15 on schedule. Okay, so if you're worried about the impact that this may have on your later sessions. Okay. So just to quickly introduce myself, my name's John Oldham, and I'm a senior instructor with Salesforce.com, and I am administrator certified and developer certified. And assisting me today is a colleague from San Francisco, Chris Piper. He's going to be doing the clicking and the typing for me so that I can stand and do the talking. Now, have you all seen a safe harbor statement before? You would have seen one this morning. If you're not new to Dreamforce, you'll have seen one on many occasions in the past. But just to quickly talk you through what this is saying, this session this afternoon may contain certain forward-looking statements about the products and services that we currently offer or that we may offer in the future. Now, these statements may turn out not to be true. So the idea behind this statement is that you should not make any buying decisions based on future-looking statements, only on the products and services that are currently available for your particular edition of Salesforce. If you do want to read that in more detail, if you have trouble sleeping at night, it is available on our website, and you should be able to find it in the slide deck that you've been given when you walked in the room this afternoon. Right, as this is a hands-on training session, for those of you fortunate enough to be sat in front of a PC, you will be able to follow along with the exercises that we're going to be doing this afternoon. In order for you to be able to do that, you first of all need to log on. So once you finish fighting with your neighbour over who's going to control the mouse and the keyboard, on your desktop, you should be able to see a couple of shortcuts to either Firefox or Internet Explorer. Can I just recommend that you double-click on the browser of your choice? So Internet Explorer or Firefox will do. And you should be taken directly to the Salesforce logon page. Now, you will need to know your username. Now, the usernames are all in the same format this afternoon. It will be admin, as you can see on the slide up here, at df09, reports ROI, followed by a 3-digit number. That 3-digit number you will find stuck on your monitor. It should be in the top left-hand corner. So, for example, did I say top left? Okay, it's in one of the top corners. Okay, I'm hoping it's the same one. So, for example, if you find that your monitor says 010, your login will be admin at df09 reports ROI010.com. Okay, and the password today is very secure, password 1. Okay, lowercase, and the 1 is a digit rather than the word 1. Okay. Now, so have a go at logging in. If anybody has any problems logging in, please raise your hand, and one of our helpers in the room will come and assist you to log in. So I'll give you a few seconds to make sure you're all logged in. Okay. Okay. So if I don't see any hands, I'll assume that you've logged in successfully. 1 or 2 hands in the room, so we'll give them a chance to get sorted out. Okay. I think that's quite a successful login so far. All right, we'll proceed. Like I say, if you are still having problems, please keep your hand raised so that one of the helpers can come and help you. Right. What's our agenda? What have we got ahead of us for the next 45 minutes or so? Well, we're here to really look at reports that are going to help us understand and analyze our marketing ROI. So let's imagine that you may not have to imagine, but we're busy marketing people. And obviously we're responsible for the budgets that we have for various campaigns, etc. So we want to make sure that those campaigns are actually making money for us. Okay? So we're also busy people, and we don't have time to go into Salesforce and create brand new reports from scratch. Not that it's difficult, but it's time consuming. So we're really thinking today about working smart. Rather than going to all the trouble of creating a brand new report from scratch, effectively reinventing the wizard, or the wheel even, sorry, we are actually going to have a look at the standard reports that are available to us By standard, I mean the ones that already come preloaded in Salesforce, and we'll have a look at using those instead. The thing is, you'd be very, very fortunate if these standard reports were exactly to your requirements. So we're also going to have a look at how we can very easily, and by easily I mean in just several clicks, make fundamental changes to these reports so that they do display the information that we want. Okay? So we're going to have a look, first of all, at how we can modify a report using the report options. These are the options that you'll find on the top of any report. We'll also have a look at getting our hands a little bit dirtier with going into the report wizard, which allows us to make more substantial, fundamental changes to a particular standard report. And in the third example, we're going to have a look at actually using the wizard again, but we'll have a look at introducing formulas and calculations into the data in our reports as well. But all of this using some of the standard reports that are already available to us in the system. Now, also at the end of the session, we've made some time for Q&A, for questions and answers. Could I just ask, if you do have any questions during the session, could you just hold on to those questions until we get to the end? Okay, just so that we don't get behind time. And we will open the floor up for Q&A at the end of the session. Okay, so standard reports. As I've already mentioned, standard reports are these reports that are already pre-installed in Salesforce, out-of-the-box reports, if you like. Now, don't dismiss these. These are excellent basic queries, but as I mentioned, they may not be exactly to your needs. So we're going to have a look at how we can use the report options at the top of these reports to very quickly make changes so that these reports do display the information we need. And the nice thing about this is that these modifications that we make to these reports can be saved in the form of a new report. So I don't have to constantly go back to the same report, make the changes to see the data that I want to see. I can make the changes, save it in the new report, and that new report will be available to me whenever I want to run it. So the report options, you can see on the slide up here, they will differ depending on the nature of the report that you're creating. So for example, a campaign report, the report options that you see there will be slightly different to the options that you'll see on the top of an opportunity report. Okay? But they're always available at the top of any report, be it a standard report or a report that you've already created. So in our first example, we're going to have a look at how we can modify reports using these report options. So let's give it a context. Let's have a scenario that we can work through. And the scenario is this. We are marketing people, and we simply want a bottom line figure. We want to be able to see how much revenue each of our campaigns is generating. Simple as that. Got a campaign, how much money is it making for me? How much money is it making for the business? Now, the good news is there's already a perfectly good standard report in there that's going to do the job for us. It's called the Campaign Revenue Report. The only thing is, as you've probably found, most standard reports in Salesforce, they tend to report just for your current fiscal quarter. So our requirement here, we want to see all monies generated for our campaigns this year. Okay? That's easily fixed. So we're going to go in and we're going to open up this campaign revenue report. We're going to have a look at changing the duration, the time frame, if you like, just within a couple of clicks, and then we'll rerun the report to see the results. We'll also have a quick look at how we can hide details. And by details, I'm talking about the actual records that make up the totals in the report. Sometimes we don't need the details, we just need a high-level view of what's going on. So we'll have a look at how we can very easily hide those. And then finally, we'll have a look at how we can save this report as a new report. Now, for those of you who are going to be available later on this afternoon, this session this morning, sorry, I'll correct myself, this session this afternoon is actually one of a couple of sessions that kind of go together. So the reports that we're going to have a look at creating today, or now, we're going to have a look at how we can use those to build dashboards later on this afternoon. So at 2:15, I believe it's in exactly the same room. If anybody's interested in how we can put those reports into dashboards, I'll be here then to talk you through it. Okay? So that's why we're going to be saving everything that we create today. Okay. So Chris is just taking us into the application. So make sure, for those of you controlling the PCs, that you're in the same place. Now, we want to have a look at the standard reports available in Salesforce. Can anybody tell me what tab we need to click on? Reports, yes. Was that a guess? Okay. So click on the Reports tab, and I'm sure many of you have been in here already, but the Reports tab may contain many hundreds, maybe even thousands of reports. So to make them a little bit more manageable, you'll notice that they're organized into folders. So Chris has just highlighted up here, we've got a folder there called Campaign Reports, in which the report that we want is going to have we're going to have a look at in a minute. But just while we're here, Chris, would you mind just clicking on Lead Reports as well, the folder underneath? Just to show you, we're just going to focus on campaign reports today, but there's also lead reports, standard lead reports in there as well, that you can open up and modify in the same way that we're going to be modifying our campaign reports. But the report in question is the second one from the bottom. Chris is pointing at you now. It's called Campaign Revenue Report. So for those of you following along, just click on the report name, and it should now run that report for you. Now, Chris scrolls down a little bit further. Now, let's have a look at the main body of the report and just see exactly what this is showing us. Now, this report is essentially a report of opportunities organized according to the campaign that they're related to. So at the top here, you can see I've got an email blast campaign, and underneath I've got a couple of won opportunities, and those have been totaled up, and you can see in the blue bar where you see campaign, in the blue row here, you can see that we've got a total. Chris just highlights that for us now. Now, that total is a summary total. It's simply the total of the amount of the individual opportunities, and it's pushed up into that blue summary row at the top so that we get the total for that campaign, the revenue generated by that campaign. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we'll see that's repeated for magazine ad laptops, telemarketing, etc., etc. So all of our campaigns, the revenue is being calculated based on the opportunity or the amounts of the opportunities that are on there. Now, how do I know all of that information? How do I know that they're opportunities? How do I know that they're won opportunities? How do I know that they're grouped by campaign? Well, if you scroll up to the top of the report and you have a look up here in the report options section, I know what's going on in that report simply by looking at these report options. You can see where it says summarize information by. That's your grouping. It's summarized by campaign name. You can see in the time frame, as I mentioned earlier on, a lot of the standard reports tend to just show you your current fiscal quarter. That's what's being shown up there. Also, if we have a look at the opportunity status a little bit further down, it's telling me that they're all won opportunities. It would be a little bit kind of optimistic of me to include open opportunities when I'm working out the revenue that each of my campaigns has been generated. Now, those report options, those are the things that we were talking about that are available at the top of every report. But as well as being able to see what parameters make up this report, those are all changeable. Any one of those options I've just pointed out to you can be changed with a click or two of the mouse. Now, the one that we're going to change is the time frame. Remember our requirement, we want to see revenue generated by campaigns this year. So, what Chris is going to do, if you look in the duration field, and please follow along, you can see you don't have to know the dates of this year. I know you know it. I know it's 1st of Jan to, what is it, 31st of December? But that takes time. You've got to work it out. You've got to sit and type the dates in. What we've got here is a list of predefined date ranges. So you don't have to worry about the dates themselves. And the one that we're going to go for is the calendar year. So there's a section there called calendar year, and the first option is current CY. CY obviously standing for calendar year. And you can see as we update that, the start date and end date update accordingly. Okay, that was a couple of clicks. Now, looking back down at the data in the report, you've probably noticed that nothing has actually changed. Now, there's a very good reason for that. Whenever you're making changes to a report via the report options, those changes are not automatically applied to the report. There's a very good reason for that. Because if it's a very long report, every time you make a change, if it was automatically applied, you may have to wait a few seconds for it to regenerate, which can be a little bit frustrating. So the system allows you to make all the changes you want, and then when you're ready, you can apply them all in one go. And the way you do that, top left-hand corner, there's a Run Report button. And the row of grey buttons, the very first one there is Run Report. So if Chris clicks on that, the report is now refreshed, and we can see that we now have a few more opportunities in there, a few more campaigns in there as well compared to what we had before. Now, that's the first thing that we're going to do with that. But let's try one other thing. As marketing people, we're probably not so much interested in the individual opportunities. We just want to see the bottom line figures. We just want to see the total revenue generated. So all of this detail, all these individual opportunities may not be of major concern to me. They're just taking up space. So, very easy way of hiding them. Any guesses? One of the grey buttons, Hide Details. I'm sure many of you have been here before. If you click the Hide Details button, report immediately updates, and what we're left with is a higher level view of the data. So what we're interested in here, or what we can see here, is what actual revenue is each of my campaigns generating for me in the form of closed won opportunities. Now let's analyze the data a little bit closer. One tends to stick out, the magazine ad laptops. I'm getting $550,000 worth of revenue from that compared to a paltry $5,100 with the email printers campaign. Okay? Now before I start diverting all of my marketing spend into advertising, there are other things that I may need to consider. It may have cost us $500,000 to generate $550,000. It may have cost us 50 cents to generate $5,100 for the email blast printers campaign. So this is a valuable report, but there's information missing here. What we really need, or in addition to this, to complement this report, what we really need is a report that allows us to see how much we've made or in comparison to how much it's actually cost us to generate that revenue. And I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. That kind of calculation or comparison is what we very often refer to as the ROI of a campaign, the return on our investment. For every dollar we spend, how much money do we get back in the form of revenue? If you like, it's the profit margin for the campaign, if any accountants are in the room. Okay? So, with that in mind, that sets us up nicely for our second example. But as I mentioned, we're going to be using these reports a little bit later on in our dashboard. So very important. We've done a little bit of work, but let's face it, we haven't done much work yet, have we? We've done a little bit of work. So, top of the report, you can see there's a Save As button. No Save button because we can't save over the standard report. If you click on Save As now, on the Save Report screen, let's give this report a name, and let's call it Campaign Revenue CY09. Okay, so we know exactly what time frame it represents. And in the report description, even though it's optional, it's always good practice to put in a report description. Let's describe this as something like, show me, we'll just follow Chris's lead, show me revenue generated by or from all campaigns this year. I love that sound. Okay. The report unique name, you can leave that. System's populated that for you, so we'll leave that where it is. And the report folder, well, you could leave it in your My Personal folder, but that's not very helpful to your colleagues because it just means that only you will be able to see that report. If you want to make it available to other people, especially if we're going to use it in the dashboard, we need to make sure it's in a more public folder. So we've actually created one for you already. There's a folder there called Marketing Dashboard Reports. Let's save it into there. And when you're done, just click the Save button, and we'll move on. So that has now been saved into our, and Chris is just pointing out to us now, our Marketing Dashboard Reports folder. Okay? So that wasn't too difficult, and I'm sure many of you have already got to that stage already with your reports. So as I mentioned, that report was only giving us half of the picture. We saw the revenue, but we weren't able to see the cost. We weren't able to work out our ROI. So in our next example, we're going to have a look at another report that's already on the system, another standard report, but the changes that we're going to make to this one are a little bit more involved. So we're going to have a look in the second example of using something called the Custom Report Wizard, which again I'm sure many of you have tried out already. Okay, so what is the Report Wizard? Well, the Report Wizard is a step-by-step wizard that allows us to go in and change the parameters that sit behind the report. You don't have to go through every single step in the wizard. You can just leave some of the steps with their default settings. Okay? And it's the wizard that we use to create reports from scratch. If I want to create a brand new report, I can use the wizard to do this. But the nice thing is, the wizard is available after the event as well. We can always go back into the wizard to make changes to existing reports at any time we like. So, what kind of changes can you make? Well, you can select fields that you want to summarize. Remember I showed you in that previous report, we saw the opportunities were organized according to campaign. Okay? Any information that you want to see summarized in that blue row where the campaign was sitting, this is where you select it. So any numerical field, percentage field, even a tick box field, you can have the system add up that data and display it in the summaries. You can have it work out an average. You can have it work out or even display the largest, the smallest value. Not just in your groups, but also at the very bottom of the report as well. These also influence your grand totals that you see at the bottom of the report. So that's one thing we can do. Other things we can do is the grouping. The report I showed you earlier on, the opportunities were grouped according to campaign name, but they don't have to be. We can organize them according to whatever parameter we like. So we can select grouping during the wizard as well. Columns. The columns that you see from left to right are simply fields. They're displaying your data. It's your report. You can decide which columns you want and which columns you don't want. So you can do that again through the wizard. And also the criteria. Now, by criteria, we're talking here about filters. Now, the filter that we applied to the report just a few moments ago, where we changed the actual time frame, that's just a filter. But in the report wizard, we have additional advanced filters, which allow us to do kind of more clever stuff with the report. So, in order to have a look at this wizard, again, we need a context. Again, we need a scenario. So the scenario is this. We would like to see the average ROI for each campaign type. Notice here we're not talking about campaigns, individual campaigns. I'm more interested in what types of campaigns are generating the best ROI. Okay, so by that we mean, are my advertising campaigns generating the best ROI? Are my telemarketing, are my email campaigns generating the best ROI? I'm not, at this stage, interested in the individual campaigns themselves. So in order to do this, we're going to run the campaigns with influenced opportunities report that's already on the system, but we're going to use the report wizard to add some summaries, to set the groupings, to remove any columns that we don't want, and we're also going to use it to set some filter criteria as well. Once we've done that, again, because our aim is to have this report available to us for dashboards later on today, we're going to run and save that report when we've finished. Okay, so again, please, if you are following along, please continue to follow along. If you strayed away from the Reports tab, go back to it now, please. And on the Reports tab, again, in the Campaign Reports folder towards the top of the Reports tab, Chris is just highlighting it for you now. There's a report there called Campaigns with Influenced Opportunities. And by this we mean these are campaigns that are directly opportunities directly linked to a campaign, or opportunities indirectly linked via a contact who's associated with one of our campaigns. So anything that's having an influence on our campaigns. So if we click on that, and do you see anything worrying? Yeah, we've got no data, but that's the nature of standard reports. These are out-of-the-box reports. How could we know when the developers put that report into Salesforce that we wouldn't have any data today on this occasion? But that's the beauty of it. With a few clicks we've already seen, we can go in and make some data magically appear in here. Okay? So we're not going to use the report options on this occasion because those will be available to us in the wizard. So let's sort those out when we're actually in the wizard itself. So you'll see in the row of grey buttons along the top, you've got a Customize button. If you click on that, that drops you directly into the wizard. So click on that now, and you can see we leave the report behind. We will get back to it in the end, and we're now in the wizard. Now, Chris, if you just scroll up to the top for a second, I just want to point something. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Now, it's possible that you might get lost in the wizard. If you've been here many times before, I'm sure you won't, but it's possible that you might get lost. So if you have a look in the top right-hand corner, it's a wizard like no other. Now, normally, with a wizard, you can only go in one direction. Next, 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 next. This, you can go forwards, backwards. I was going to say up, down, but just to give you the idea. So we can jump to any step in this wizard without having to go next, next, next all the way through. So we can just jump to the steps where we want to make changes. So we're going to go through this in order because I'm sure there are a few people in the room perhaps who have never encountered the wizard before. So let's start off with the default starting place, which is select columns to total. And what you're seeing here is a list of all numerical fields, percentage fields, even tick boxes that are available for you to report on. And we're being asked here, which ones of these do we want to have added up or averaged or the largest, smallest values displayed in those summary rows or at the bottom of the report. Now, the one that we're interested in measuring ROI. The good news is your campaigns already have the ROI calculated for you. We just need to select that we want to see that. So if you scroll down a little way, there it is. There's a field there called ROI. Now, the ROI field is a percentage field. And if you've ever tried to add up a whole bunch of percentage values, you'll find that the result is usually not particularly useful. Okay? So much better is to, on a percentage field, is to have an average. What's the average ROI for all of my campaigns of a particular type, rather than just what's the total ROI, because that's a meaningful percentage or meaningless percentage figure. Also, while we're here, if you scroll down a little bit further, there's a couple of interesting fields, one called closed and one called won. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, I've never seen a field called won or a field called closed on my opportunities. What does that mean? Well, these are internal fields. They're called flags, to give them a name, but they're essentially internal checkboxes. If you've got an opportunity that is a closed won stage, the system will automatically tick that box. Okay? If you've got an opportunity that's closed lost or closed won, the closed tick box will be ticked internally. You never get to see it. It's not on your page layout, but it's there for things like this, for reporting purposes. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how do you add up ticks? Well, essentially, if you're a mathematician, a tick box basically contains a 1 if it's ticked and a 0 if it's not ticked. So we could just tell the system, add up all the opportunities that have a 1 in the 1 field. Try saying that, 1 in the 1 field, okay? And it gives you a count of 1 opportunities on the report. Do the same thing with the closed one, and it gives you a count of opportunities that have actually been closed, won or lost, on the report as well. Now, there is a reason why I'm asking you to do this. I'll make it clear in just a minute. But as well as being able to measure the ROI, it's also very often useful to be able to see, well, which of my opportunities are being won, which of my opportunities are being lost? Are my campaigns generating good quality leads, good quality opportunities? So more of that in a minute. when we get to it. So what you should have done there, you should have selected to average the ROI field, and you've selected to sum the closed field and the one field. Everybody okay with that? You're a good audience. Okay. So let's move on. If you click the next button now, you'll find it in the top right-hand corner or the bottom right-hand corner of the wizard. And on our next screen, this is where we get to do our grouping. Now, this is what we call a summary report. Rather than a tabular report, which is just a long list of records, a summary report allows us to put those records into particular groups. Now, at the moment, the opportunities on this report are grouped by campaign name. Now, that's too granular for me. I'm not interested in the ROI of my individual campaigns. I'm interested in the ROI of all advertising campaigns, all email campaigns, telemarketing campaigns. So what we're going to do, if you click into that field where you see campaign name, and here is a list of fields available in the report by which you can group. And if you go down, one of them is campaign type, which is simply an identifier. Is it an advertising campaign? Is it an email campaign? That kind of thing. Now, I'm sure you all want to go from A to Z. If anyone wants to go from Z to A, you're more than welcome to change the sort order to descending, if you want, but let's leave it as ascending for the time being. Now, while we're here, we won't do it, but while we're here, just to point it out, summary reports can have up to 2 further levels of grouping. So you could group, first of all, by campaign name, campaign type, and then by campaign name, or then by time frame, by period, and so on. Up to 3 levels of grouping are available. But that's good enough for me at the moment. So campaign type has been set as a grouping level. Let's click Next. Now, this screen here can potentially be a long screen depending on how many fields you have available. If you've got a lot of custom fields in your opportunities and campaigns, there might be a lot of fields to choose from here. Now, our report is going to be basic. We just want just 2 or 3 fields in here. So here's a little tip. Can you see in the top right-hand corner, Chris is just pointing out to you now, top right, Chris, over there. He's got left and right painted on his shoes, like this. Can you see there's a deselect all columns? Yeah. Can you see that? What I'm going to ask you to do, if you click on that link, what that will do, that will remove all of the existing selections. Because what Salesforce does with its standard reports, it makes a number of assumptions. It thinks you'll want this field, this field, this field. And it can be quite time-consuming to go in and deselect those fields that you don't want. So sometimes, if you know that you only want a few fields on your report, just start off by clearing everything, clearing all selections, and then going in and manually making your own. So what we'll do now, in the campaign section, these are the campaign fields, let's have the campaign name. So put a tick or a check in the campaign name. And also, and this is in the 4th column about halfway down, let's make sure that we can see the ROI as well. And a little bit further down, let's have some opportunity information so that we can at least identify the opportunities that are making up the ROI. So scroll down, there's a section there called opportunity information. Let's check the opportunity name field, and let's also check the amount field. So we want to be able to see what amount is being generated. Okay. Now, notice there's a one field in here, and there's a closed field in here. Those are the same 2 fields that we selected a couple of screens back, where we told the system we wanted a total of all won and a total of all lost on the report. I'm not going to select them now, because the system's going to select them for me automatically. Because I've already told it I want them summed up, so it's going to automatically select them anyway. So you don't have to worry about making those additional selections. All right, so we've got a campaign name and ROI for the campaigns on the report, and we've got the opportunity name and the amount on the report as well. So let's click on Next, top right-hand corner, bottom right-hand corner. And the next screen is kind of related to the previous screen. Of those fields that we've just chosen to include, and by the way, notice closed and one there, despite us not having selected those, it's just asking us what order we want them in. I'm going to leave you to work out how that works. I think you already know how that works. The idea is you select a column or columns, and using the up, down, top, down, bottom buttons, you can just move the position. And you're influencing the position from left to right. Okay, so we'll leave the default order as is and click on Next. And finally, we get to our filter screen. Now, at the top, you can see we've got a standard filter section. Those are the same filters that you have in the report options at the top of the report. You can modify them here, or you can modify them at the top of the report. The choice is yours. Can anybody spot perhaps one of the reasons why we weren't seeing any data on the report? It's set, in the view list there, it's set to just my campaign. So that would be campaigns that you and me own. Okay. If you're a marketing rep, you may own these campaigns. If you're a marketing manager, you may not. So we don't actually own any campaigns ourselves. So let's change that to all campaigns. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, well, you can see we've got an advanced filters area just underneath, which is where we can be a little bit more, if you like, flexible with what we want to see. Now, we want to ensure that we're only looking at closed opportunities on this report. We're not interested in open opportunities. Open opportunities are not influencing our revenue or ROI, so we're only interested in closed. So in the first field, where it currently says opportunity close date, click into that field, and again, you can select to filter on any field that's available. And the one that we want to filter on is our closed field. So you'll find this towards the top of the opportunity information section, and it's the closed field in there. So go ahead and select closed. And we're saying here we're looking for all opportunities, or looking to include on this report, all opportunities where the closed is equal to, well, this month was there from before. But because it's a pick list, it can have one or two values. Now, I've already said that it could be ticked or unticked. I've already said that a tick box or a checkbox, or beginning where I am, a checkbox, I beg your pardon, can have a 1 or a 0 in it. But there's also a third set of or pair of values that it could have. Does anyone know what they are? Well, it's actually true or false. It can also have true or false values in here. So that could be confusing. You may not know how to spell true or false. I'm sure you don't, but just think you're having a bad day. So can you see at the end of that field, there's a little, and if Chris can just point it out to us, there's a little lookup button, a little button with a magnifying glass. Whenever you're doing a filter based on a pick list or based on a checkbox, that's available. You click on it, and it allows you to see what values you can choose to include. So let's go ahead and select true and click the Insert Selected button, and that just brings the true value down into there. So we're looking for all opportunities that have been closed. Now, before you start panicking, well, hang on, that's closed won and closed lost. The ROI calculation in the report only obviously includes the value of won opportunities, if anyone was wondering. The ROI calculation can look after itself. Okay, and we won't get any further with this. At any stage during that wizard, we could have run the report. So bottom left-hand corner, let's go ahead and click the Run Report button. And that now runs the report. Is it looking a little bit healthier? Okay, so let's have a look at exactly what this is showing us. It's showing us influential campaigns, or influential opportunities, I beg your pardon, that are organized according to not the campaign itself, but to the campaign type. So can you see we've got advertisement campaigns, email campaigns, telemarketing campaigns. So it's not quite so granular as simply looking at the individual campaign level. And let's have a look at advertisements. Now, this is just kind of backing up my assumptions from earlier on. It's telling me that the average ROI for my advertising campaigns is 7,757%. Does that sound pretty healthy? To put it into perspective, for every $1 we're spending on advertising, we're getting $77.50 back in return. That's pretty good spend. If you compare that to telemarketing, where we've got an average ROI of 1,716%, still sounds like a lot, but in comparison, every dollar we spend on telemarketing, we're only getting $17 back. So guess where my money's going to go next year? Okay? Maybe into improving the telemarketing department, or maybe in advertising. So every dollar I take out of telemarketing, I'm losing $17. But if I put it into advertisements or advertising, I'm gaining $77. So $60 more for every dollar I spend. So again, just for the sake, I mean, a few minutes work that was, but immediately, straight away, I'm thinking about my budget spend next year, thinking about where my campaign revenue or my campaign spend is going to go next year. Also, while we're here, let's have a look at what's happening over there on the right-hand side. Notice that we've got a couple of columns, closed and closed won. And for each campaign type, I'm able to see the total. So, for example, with advertising, out of every 5 opportunities that we win that are related to advertising campaigns, or every 5 that we close, I beg your pardon, we're winning 4 of them. So that's a pretty good close rate. Compare that with email campaigns, and out of every 5 that we close, we're winning just 3. Now that could be, well, we've currently got an email campaign going out to prospects or leads, asking them if they come to our website and sign up for more information, we give them a free pen. Clearly, a lot of people are going to our website, signing up for the free pen, but they're not very good quality leads. So little things like this are allowing us to kind of analyze the quality of the leads and the opportunities, etc., that each of my campaigns, or in this example, my campaign types, are generating for me. Now, before we go any further, let's just set ourselves up for the third exercise. Those close won, it's very difficult for me to compare because my maths isn't that good. 4 out of 5 for advertising, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 6. Which is better? My maths is not that good. Okay? So it's very difficult for me just to compare the raw figures here. It would be much easier if I could express these values as a percentage, as a rate, if you like. So is it 80%, 20%? Much easier for doing comparisons. So that's going to be the topic of our third example. But before we go and have a look at our third example, let's make sure that we save this one, because remember, later on this afternoon, we're going to be using this report for dashboard. So go ahead, top of the report, let's click Save As, and let's give the report a name. And we're going to call this Campaign ROI by Type. Okay. So we've included the grouping in the report name. Makes it easier when you're looking at these reports later on. And the report description, how are my campaigns performing? I'll forgive his spelling. And unique name, leave it as it is. And as before, let's make sure we save it into the marketing dashboard reports folder. Okay. And then finally click on the Save button. Okay, so for the sake of what, we've been working on this for 20, 25 minutes. We've got some meaningful information straight away without having to sort of work too hard. But, as I mentioned, we've got those figures, 3 out of every 5 or 4 out of every 5 of those opportunities for advertising we're closing. I want to express that as a percentage. So our last example today, if we go to exercise or go on to the next slide, we're going to have a look at how we can add custom summary formulas to a report. Now, a custom summary formula is basically where we take any data from the report and we add it up, we work out its average, we display the smallest, the largest value, or we perform more complex calculations on it. We can use operators. And for those of you who like your formulas, you can use functions as well. Hands up, who likes formulas? That's about 5 people, 5 or 6 people. Okay, so just to reassure you, we're not going to go and start using the pre-group val formula. Not today anyway, maybe another day. Okay, and the nice thing is whenever you're building formulas, calculations, it's always a good idea to make sure you check your syntax. Have you got too many brackets, too few brackets, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to do. Let's move on to our final example, and it's this. We would like to create the win rates on deals that were produced by the different campaigns that we were running. So we want to see what quality of leads are being generated, what quality of opportunities are being generated. Are we winning them? It's all very well saying, yeah, it's a great campaign, generating lots of revenue, lots of ROI, but we could do better. It's a measure of how much better we can do. So to achieve this, what we're going to do, we're going to go in and rerun the campaign ROI by type report, the one that we've just finished, and we're going to go and have a look at adding a custom summary formula to it to work out this so-called win rate. And as before, one last time, we're going to run and save it as a new report so that it's available for us later on when we come back to add it to a dashboard. So let's go, one last time, right? So again, please follow along with us. Back to the Reports tab if you're not already there. And if you remember, we saved this report into a folder called Marketing Dashboard Reports. So scroll down. If the folder is not open, you'll see there's a little, I believe you call them twisties here. The little triangle that you can click on and it twists around. Am I wrong? Well, that's what I've heard it called anyway. And that allows you to display or hide the contents of a particular folder. Is that something new? It's a takeaway. It's called a twisty. Tell your friends. Okay, and in there somewhere should be the campaign ROI by type report that we created just 3 or 4 minutes ago. So go ahead and click on the name, and it should be the exact same report that we were looking at earlier on. Now, the custom summary formula, again, it's not something that you can set up through the report options at the top. So what we'll do, let's go into the Customize button again, which will drop us, as we saw before, back into the wizard. Now, custom summary formulas in reports, a lot of people don't know about them because they're quite difficult to spot. You could have seen it many times without even realizing it. Where you'll need to go, step 2 of the wizard, this is the screen where we select which fields we want to have summarized at the bottom of the report in our groupings. If you scroll down towards the bottom of that screen, tucked away from view, almost as if it's not there, and it's a long screen in this example, keep going, keep going, keep going. He's going slowly because it'll make you dizzy if he goes too quickly, these big screens. And you see right down the bottom there, there's a custom summary formula area. Now, you can have up to a maximum of 5 of these custom summary formulas on any one report. We've just got time to have a look at creating one of them. If you click on the New button, and it opens up in a new window your formula builder. So, because it's a formula, it needs a label to introduce it. So let's call this Opportunity Win Rate. And let's describe it as something like, what rate of opportunities am I winning per campaign type? Okay, or are we winning? Okay. Now, the format, this allows us to set in what format the result will be displayed. You can choose from number, from currency, or percent. What do you think? Percent. It's a rate. Let's have it as a percentage. It's the whole point of this exercise. Now, how precise do you want it to be? I'm happy with to the nearest 2 decimal places. Okay, you can choose from 0 all the way up to 18, okay, if you need to be that precise. 2 will do for us. Okay, so let's select 2. Secondly, in the formula section, this first part is asking us whereabouts we want this calculated figure to appear. You can have it in each of the rows, you can have it just at the grand total level, or you can have it at both. Because it's a percentage, as I mentioned before, not that I don't like percentages, but if you try to add up a whole lot of percentages, they don't give you anything meaningful. So having it displayed at the bottom of the report is not really much good to us. But having it displayed at the grouping level, remember we're grouping the opportunities according to campaign type. That's where it's going to be more meaningful to us. So it's the third option where it says there, grouping 1. We've only got one level of grouping on the report, campaign type. Now the fun bits. This is where we actually get to build the calculation. So for those of you who didn't put your hands up when I asked about formulas, today's your lucky day, okay? But we'll go easy on you. Right. The way it works is this. What we need to get into this box at the bottom is our formula. And the way we do this, we've got various tools available to us. One of them is insert a summary field. If you click into that, it's essentially a list of numerical fields on the report, percentage fields, tick boxes, anything that could possibly be added up or subtracted, calculated, in other words. So the one that we're looking for that one that I pointed out to you earlier on, the field called 1. So remember what I said, if an opportunity is 1, what value, I know it's a tick box or a check box, but what numerical value will be in that field if it's 1, if that opportunity is 1? The number 1, yeah. So what we do here, just to the right, when you select a field, you can also select what you want to do with the values in that field in the report. You can add them up, calculate the largest, the smallest, the average. You probably recognize those from the previous screen in the wizard. So let's leave it as the default, which is sum, which is going to add up all the 1s. In other words, it's going to give us a count of all the opportunities that have been won on their report. And click Insert. Now, this is where we get to the complex calculation. What we want to do is divide that by the number of opportunities that have been closed. So we just do the same thing again. We need to insert an operator, first of all. So if you click on the Insert operator, I don't know what to call this. I call it a mutton, because it's like a menu and a button combined. Okay? If that helps. Okay. But, so Insert operator, and the one that we want is divide. Now, if that's too time-consuming for you, you could just hit divide on your keyboard. Okay? So we're taking the total of all, the count of all opportunities won in the report, and we're dividing it by the total that have been closed. That's closed won and lost, remember. So it's the same procedure. Go back to the insert a field, or summary field. Just above the 1 that we selected previously, there's the closed field, which again is a checkbox, which will have a value of 1 or 0, depending on whether or not it's closed. And again, the function defaults to sum. So let's just hit insert, and that just gets inserted wherever we had last left our cursor. Now, that's all we need to do. We don't need to multiply that by 100 or anything, because remember we chose the format of percent. That's going to do the multiply by 100 for us anyway. All we need to do, and I know you're probably thinking, well, no way have I got that wrong. You'd be surprised. Underneath the formula, there's a check syntax button. As your formulas get more complex, it's always a good idea to click on that. Click on it now. All being well, you should just return or have returned to you a green error message saying no errors found in the formula. Okay? If you've all got that, anybody not got that? Oh, look at that. That's pretty good going. Bottom right-hand corner of that screen, click the Done button, and that will just push that formula back into the report. So if you just scroll down to the bottom again, there you can see our formula. Now, you can come back into the report wizard at any time and add additional formulas, summary formulas in here. You can delete them. You can go in and edit them if they're not working for you, if you've missed something out. Okay? So that's there for you to edit at any point in the future. So let's give it a go then. Bottom left-hand corner, let's click Run Report. And you can see our calculation has been added as a final column over there, win rate, 80%. So Chris scrolls down a little bit. Now it's a lot easier for me to be able to compare campaign type against campaign type. 80%, 60%, 66%, etc. Not at the bottom because we chose not to add at the bottom. Adding those 3 percentages up wouldn't give me a particularly useful figure. So there's a lot of information on this report, and again, it's been just a few minutes as creating it. We can see the ROI, what return we're getting on each dollar we spend in each of our campaign types, but we're also being able to analyze the win rate, the quality of the leads, the quality of the opportunities that these campaigns are generating. So the advertising campaign may be generating a lot of ROI, but if the win rate is very low, then there's something happening in our sales process, perhaps, that's not converting those leads, not converting those opportunities into revenue. Okay, so that's something we might need to fix as well. So one final time, let's save this so that we'll have it available to us in our dashboards later on. So as before, you've got the Save As button at the top. But on this occasion, we're going to click the Save button. Now, the advantage of clicking the Save button is that if you want to overwrite an existing report, which is what we want to do, all we've done is added a formula. If you want to overwrite it, if you click Save As, you've got to type in the report name all over again. So clicking on Save rather than Save As, it simply offers you the same description, the same name that we had before. And all we need to do, just confirm that we're happy with that description, etc., just click on the Save button. Okay, and that has now been added to our marketing dashboard reports. So all of that, okay, in the space of, what was that, 35 minutes or so, 35, 40 minutes, all utilizing the standard reports within the system. And all we did, we had a look at applying option changes. We had a look at going into the wizard and all the things that the wizard can do for us. And we also had a look at adding custom summary formulas to the report as well. So we're a little bit more clued up about what's going on in or with our particular campaigns. Okay. So today's session, we've been looking at the kind of stuff that we have a look at during our administrator training courses. If any of you are interested in finding out more about our courses or our new offering, which is Premier Training, for those of you who might be thinking about asking or needing a lot of training, can I just ask that you either, there's a couple of people, who is it at the back that we have? Can you just raise your hands? If you just have a look behind you, there's a couple of girls at the back there who are part of our training and certification team. They'd be happy to answer any queries that you have about training or anything like that. Also, in the campground, we have a training and certification booth where you can go and find out more about our courses and more about Premier Training as well. So please go and find out those people as well. Before you go any further, I am going to open up the session to Q&A in just a couple of minutes. But I know what will happen. If I do that, you'll all flood out the doors. What we really want from you, if you wouldn't mind, could you just take a couple of minutes just giving us a little bit of feedback on probably your first session of Dreamforce. I'm hoping it's not going to be your last. I hope I haven't done that much damage. But for those of you who are sat in front of a PC, could you go back into Salesforce? I think you're already there anyway. But go to your Home tab. Click on the Home tab. On the Home tab, you'll see the sidebar, where you would expect it to be. And in there, towards the bottom of the sidebar, you've got a course survey area, which has a link called Course Survey. That was a Freudian slip, I think, a course survey. If you click on that link, in a new window, it will open up a very short survey. So just select the course that you attended, which I believe is our Building Reports to Analyze ROI. And I can't answer the other questions for you. That's over to you. So just take a couple of minutes to answer those questions, if you don't mind. And then when you're done, just submit your answers, and we'll just open up the floor for Q&A. Okay? Right.
I have a question. The question is, can you, in step 4 of report creation, can you hide the basic fields? Because in our instance, we have so many custom fields.
Can I answer that? I will answer that question. Can I answer that in a second? I'll let everybody do the survey, and then I'll open it up, because then I'll ask the question to everybody, because other people might be interested in that. But very good question. I'll come to that. Okay. Yeah, so we'll wait a minute or two before I open it up for questions. We've already got a very good question at the front, which we'll answer. Okay, so for those of you rushing off, thank you very much for attending, and enjoy Dreamforce. That's the main thing. Enjoy yourselves. And if you can, come back to my session later on this afternoon where we put all of these reports into dashboards. Is that what's left? Okay. Okay, what I'll do then, now you've had a couple of minutes to fill in the survey, I will take questions. I've had a question from a gentleman at the front, and the question was, in the report wizard, the screen that you get to, or the step that you get to where you select all of those fields, I believe the question was, is there any way that you can remove fields from that step that you wouldn't necessarily want to report on a daily basis? Now, the answer to that is yes, you can do that, and it involves something called a custom report type. Now, a custom report type, without getting into too much detail, I don't know if you can you just jump back into the app for a second, Chris, if you don't mind? Are you an administrator? Okay. You need to be an administrator to do this, but it's something you could ask your system administrator to, yeah. You'd be able to do this, yeah. If you go on the setup menu, on create, about halfway down the setup menu, under app setup, there's an option there called report types. And if you click into that and click continue, essentially what a report type is, a report type allows you to create a framework on which future reports can be built. And in this framework, you can identify the object or objects that you want to report on, say campaigns and opportunities, but you can also, as you go through the setup, specify what fields you want to have available for selection on that step 4 that you mentioned on the wizard. So it can be done, but it involves a little bit of pre-work, if you like, using a custom report type.
Will it automatically know when I set this up which standard?
Yes. So the question was, would it automatically know? So when you built any wizard based on that custom report type, or build any report, sorry, based on that custom report type, it will know which fields you've decided to hide. And so a user or yourself, you would only see the fields that you would want to be able to select from whenever you build future reports based on that report type. I don't know if you can just go in for a second. Any report type that you create, can you go to the Reports tab and click the Create New Custom Report? In here, those are all report types. Okay, so anything that you create, you'd be asked which category you wanted to appear in. And in there, you would just select it at the very beginning when you're creating a new report. Okay? Thank you for the question. Any other questions? There's a question at the front. Does somebody have the microphone? You can. There was one here. Okay, I'll come back to you in a second. Sorry.
Isn't it true that in order to be able to measure ROI, you have to put campaign cost into the system first?
That's a very good point, yeah. The campaign ROI calculation is based on the difference between the cost of the campaign and the revenue divided by the cost of the campaign. If your campaign doesn't have any cost in it, then 2 of those 3 components in the calculation are missing, and your campaign ROI will not be accurate. So that is an important point, absolutely. So the cost needs to be included in the campaign. I'll get to this. Look at it. Thank you. Thank you for waiting.
When you make your reports available publicly, is there a way to put a security feature on there so people have to do a save as so they don't mess up your reports that you've already created?
Yeah. The question was, when you're creating reports and saving them into folders, is there any way that you can prevent your colleagues, when they're having a bad day, maybe taking your report that you spent hours on, modifying it and saving it over the top of your one? So the idea is when you create your report folder, so Chris, could you just quickly go to the Reports tab for a second? When you create a folder, so you can see there's a link there to create a new folder. Yeah. Create a new folder. There you go. And can you see where it says public, you give the folder a name, and you've got there public folder access, read only. If you change that, or no, just further up, Chris. Yeah. Just up there. Where it says read only, if you leave it as read only, users will be able to take a report out, modify it, but they'll not be able to save it back into that folder. Thereby, you're preventing them from saving over your existing report. If you make it read-write, anybody who has access to that folder will be able to save into it. Then you run the risk of them actually overwriting an existing report. So it's all in the folder. Thanks for the question. Thank you. Is there another question? Come to you in a second, sir.
Is it possible to report on non-monetary values? Because we're a nonprofit, we report on, let's say, how many students applied to our programs after we did a certain campaign, but there's not a number that we can tag onto it.
Okay. So you're essentially, you want to be able to just report on the number of students?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like how many phone calls did we make until one student applied or one family
Yeah.
applied.
There's a feature on a report called the count. And that will actually count records, either records, if you've got groupings. So all you need to do is do that. So it simply counts up the number of records. So if you don't actually have a monetary value in any form, then counting things is a perfectly good way of reporting and getting the metrics that you need.
Okay, and that's in the wizard.
Sorry?
That's in the wizard?
That's in the wizard. I don't know if you, could you quickly click on create new custom reports? And that takes us into the wizard. And if you jump ahead, if we just jump ahead to, let me think, yeah, to the select fields for summary. That's the one, yeah. Or a summary report, yeah. Can you see in here, you've got record count. So that's, you can put a tick in there and it basically will count up the records rather than actually adding up any particular values. Okay? Thanks for the question. Okay, I think I've probably got time for just 2 more questions, so I'll come to you in a second, sir.
Well, mine's pretty quick.
Okay.
When you're on the filter criteria,
Yes.
and the field that you're using is a pick list,
Yes.
are you able to choose something other than what's in the pick list as a value?
Could you give me an example?
Your pick list value is true or false,
Yeah.
and you have people that have typed in maybe.
Well, if it's a pick list, the system would not allow them to type in.
If it's imported data, it allows it. And I'm trying to find these imported records that people imported and get rid of them or change them.
So you just want to type in a value that's not available in the pick list? Yes. I think that's, yeah, it would, yes.
Will it allow you to do that?
The helper, the lookup, is just an aid, so if you're not sure of the values, but you can manually type a value in there. You don't have to choose a value from the lookup list. Okay. Thank you. Good question. Good question. Thank you for that. Okay, I'll make this the last question if that's all right. Apologies. There you go. Oh.
What I'm running into is a lot of times we'll have multiple contacts associated with an opportunity.
Yes.
And I think it's pulling ROI based on the primary contact. So how does that divide it up if you have maybe somebody who isn't a primary contact but is an influencer on the opportunity as far as allocating ROI to that campaign?
Okay, so what you're saying, you've got opportunities that are not directly linked to a campaign.
Yeah, basically. I mean, we'll have multiple contacts associated to an opportunity, and some of them may or may not be involved in a particular campaign, but we still want to see kind of how that campaign influenced that opportunity.
Okay. Now, the campaign influence kind of mode, if you like, is a bit of a blunt form. What it actually does, any contact roles that you have on an opportunity, if those particular contacts have been associated with a campaign, they bring with them to that campaign any other opportunities that they're involved in. So what you can sometimes find, if an opportunity has a lot of contacts in them, those contacts are linked to lots of different campaigns, they'll bring those contacts to the campaigns, or those opportunities to the campaigns as influential opportunities. Now, obviously, it is a feature that you can switch on. You don't have to use that if that's going to be an issue. But that's essentially how influential campaigns work. It's based on the connection that an opportunity has to a contact, and in turn, the relationship that contact has to a campaign.
Now, does it only allocate a certain percentage, though, if they aren't a primary contact?
Chris, as far as I'm aware, it includes the whole amount.
Okay.
Yeah, so even if it's just, oh, this guy saw our advert, so let's, and he's associated with this opportunity, let's bring that opportunity into the campaign. I believe it's just sorry. The question was about campaign influence. There's no way, if it's an opportunity, or influential opportunity, there's no way that we can say only count 10% of it. No, it's not that sophisticated. It's just basically the whole amount is added to that campaign. Okay, so could go either way. Okay, but thank you for your questions, and I hope to see many of you maybe later on this afternoon where we have a look at building our dashboards with these reports. Thank you.